Hello, thanks for tuning into Town Meeting TV's coverage of Town Meeting Day 2026. My name is Megan O'Rourke, and this program is part of a series of candidate forums hosted by us for you in advance of Town Meeting Day. This year, voting will happen on March 3rd, 2026. That's the first Tuesday in March. These forums are made possible by Town Meeting TV's generous underwriting partners. You can find all of our forums at cctv.org/TMD 2026 or on our Town Meeting TV YouTube channel, youtube.com/townmeetingtv, where auto-generated captions are available. If you're tuning on YouTube, click the subscribe button to stay tuned into our local democracy this election season. On tonight's program, we're going to hear from a couple of candidates running for Essex Selectboard. It's the one-year seat, and we have with us here Ethan Lawrence, the incumbent, and Noah Detzer. And we're going to start right in with your introductions. And just tell us, we're going to start with our incumbent, Ethan. Tell us what you love about Essex in a minute and a half. You only have a minute and a half. And why you're running. What will be different if you're elected?
I love Essex for its beautiful open lands and scenic views. I think it's important that we have a strong, engaged community. The diversity of our residents make us strong. I'm running for a one-year term to follow 4 years served, as I believe I still have some work to finish. To name a few things I've been a part of or led the way on, we created a farmer's market. I worked for more contracted services like mowing and plowing for saving money, planning for future emergency services, quick transition from Planning Commission to DRB. I pushed hard for forage management plans on a lot of our lands like Indian Brook and Saxon Hill Forest that hadn't been actively managed for years. Credit card fees returned back to the user, saved the town about $5,000 a year. Getting youth voices into the local government. We got some interns in the town office now. Shorter vehicle replacement schedules, police salary vacancies. 4 years ago we started that. And now it's rolled into fire, so that gives the manager the authority to hire and fill positions, but eliminates the amount from the budget so it doesn't roll in. And then the 2026 ballot questions, tree farm negotiations, and most importantly, increasing wages for our public works. And that's what I got.
Great, thank you, Ethan. It's been a busy 5 years that you've been on the select board. Noah Detzer, tell us who you are, what you love about Essex. What's going to be different if you are elected?
Yeah, well, thank you, Megan. Thank you to CCTV and Ethan. Thanks for the conversation. So yeah, super excited to be having this conversation. I think what I love about Essex is truly the sense of community. When my wife and I moved to Essex about a year and a half ago, the very first night that we got there, our neighbors brought us a plate of chocolate chip cookies, which just felt like the kindest thing. And then a little bit later, a little bit into our tenure, a friend of mine was backing out of the driveway and he got stuck. And our neighbor who saw this without us asking, without any sort of prompting or anything, came over and helped him out, put down the sand, did the whole thing. And I really feel like these two instances, as small as they were really evocative of the sense of community overall. I really loved that sense of just what it means to sort of give back. And so when I was thinking about ways to get involved, I wanted to start on a board or a commission. So I was appointed to the Housing Commission, spent about 7 months or so there working through some of the zoning laws, zoning regulations, that sort of thing, and getting a better sense of how municipal government worked. I'm hoping to make the jump in this case because I really feel like there's a lot of work we can do to continue to strengthen the community in Essex and also to address some of the things that have come up over the course of the past couple of years. I think we can do a good job of being transparent. I think we can really tackle some of the affordability issues. And I think most importantly, we can really plan for Essex's future. I'm really excited to work alongside the other select board members if I am elected to make sure that Essex has a vibrant future and that we can work together to achieve it.
Thank you so much. We're going to go back and forth and rotating who begins. You have about a minute and a half as you just expertly and deftly exampled. The town budget, Noah, do you support the proposed town budget of $17.2 million? Is there anything you would have liked to change about this budget? Why or why do you not Do you support it?
Yeah, no, thanks for the question. Yeah, I would say that I do support the budget. I think one of the things that I'm coming to this work from a sense of, from an understanding of public safety. My current job at the Department of Health is to work on public safety, work on emergency response times, that sort of thing. And so what I look for in any budget is making sure that there's a priority to keeping folks safe. I think from the beginning, I was really impressed with the fact that the select board kept and the staff in the town kept the budget to about a 2.5% increase, especially at a time when we're seeing increases of even double digits across the board. So at a time when it's really difficult, when folks are finding difficult to kind of afford the basic necessities, keeping that tax rate down there was very impressive. And I think some of the things the budget does are really exciting. We're paying an extra $1 per hour to the firefighters, so increasing that per diem rate to be more competitive with other folks. I think the spot for an assistant librarian at the library is really great because I think that's such an underrated third meeting place, you know, for folks to be able to go when they're not at work or not at home, but spend some time there, which is really exciting. And I think fundamentally continuing to support the services that we need, that we rely on, is critical. And I think this budget does a really good job of making sure that folks feel comfortable, that folks feel safe in their community. And I think, again, like I said before, it does. I'm just very impressed with how the staff at town managed to keep it to 2.54%, something like that.
Great, thanks so much. Ethan, you must have worked on this budget. Do you support this proposed town budget? And is there anything you would like to change?
Yeah, yes, thank you. I do support the town budget. We spent countless hours ironing through the numbers and trying to find deficiencies or anything that we could change. And you know, I feel like we did a really good job. We set a goal at the beginning of the year that we wanted it to be between 2 and 3%. Obviously, we all wish that it could be 0 every year, but with the inflation and mostly health insurance costs, we had quite a bit of employee turnover that retirements and stuff like that, that changes kind of the health care depending on if it was a family, you know, things like that. So there was some savings there. The only thing I had pushed for that we didn't end up completing was a little bit more on the fire vacancy, just to align more with historical spending. As Noah mentioned, the fulfillment there for the increase in the volunteer call-out hours, training hours, the per diem has been great, and it's a great incentive. However, there's been consistent over the last 3 years of underspending in that line item, which creates a fund balance. So we just need to see how this year plays out and keep it in mind for next year. But town staff is always great for support, and our fellow members did a very good job in keeping the tax rate increase as low as possible.
Great, thank you. And not to conflate things, because the select board does not touch the school budget, but we do think that folks want to know if you're generally supportive of the school budget, why or why not. And it is one of the biggest hits on the pocket, but biggest support for the community in many ways as well. So what are your thoughts, and we're going to start with you, Ethan, on the proposed Essex Westford School District? It's the FY27 budget, and it's trying to keep current program services in place, but we will see an increase.
Thank you. I support our school district, and I'm acquaintances with a lot of the members on the school board. I believe that they've done a very well job of diligent work and continuing to look at the budget. But as you mentioned, I feel it's inappropriate for the select board to take a stance on another board that we don't have any say on their policy or budgetary decisions. But I do have full support of our school board members and the school district as a whole.
Great, thank you. And Noah?
Yeah, so I definitely support the budget. I'm coming to this role from a background of teaching. I was a teacher for about 6 years in Hartford and the Milton school districts. And I've had conversations with Rob Carpenter, the chair of the school board, and have been really excited about the direction that things are going sort of under his watch there. I think in many cases, what schools are asked to do is to provide a lot of services, specifically services that even just 10 years ago weren't necessarily part of that. And I've been really impressed to see the way that the school board has stepped up and has really made the commitment to continuing to serve all of our students. I think it's really important too to keep in mind that school budget is not just academics, right? I mean, in many cases, there are so many other things that go into that budget, and whether that's students' ability to play sports, whether they are doing extracurricular activities, being in clubs, that sort of thing. There's so much that goes into what a school does and is and really provides. I think in many cases, the school was one of the reasons my wife and I wanted to come to Essex and to set down roots here and ideally raise a family here too, because I think it's got a reputation as a strong district, and I think that's in no small part due to the excellent work that the board has done so far. I think it's really important to keep in mind too that schools do a lot of work with mental health, supporting students' mental health, and I think that's an absolutely critical part of the budget, specifically because we're seeing mental health instances that require a lot more support than even just a few years ago. So I think a budget like this, a budget that supports students and also prepares them for the real world, ideally is going to continue to provide those essential services.
Great, thank you so much. There are a few ballot items, and we're going to speak to them in a couple of questions here. Articles 3 and 4 on the ballot, and this is what folks will see, are referencing the proposed municipal complex on a parcel of land. This is up near the Maple Fields at 289 entrance. Do you support continued progress on the new municipal complex and completion of infrastructure design for the 80 to 90 Upper Main Street location? Noah.
Yeah, no, I do support it. I think what's interesting, and I think what's important to sort of keep in mind about this is that it's a phased implementation. So this isn't all going up all at once, but it's over the course of several years. And I think what the Select Board has done that I really appreciate is create a situation where we can kind of do this in bits and pieces so that there's as much input from the town as possible to make sure that people feel comfortable and excited, frankly, about all of the opportunities. I think for this specific component, for this specific ballot item, it's I think about 1.5 million is allocated here, and 500,000 of that is from the grant that we've received. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to really get this process started. And this isn't building anything just yet, and I do think that there's a real opportunity for other folks to be able to be a part of the process and, frankly, to chime in on what is important. But I think some of the proposed items are really exciting when we're talking about updates to potentially the library, to having a municipal system that's actually in our town. So the town center that is a part of the town is really exciting. And I think, too, there are additional updates that ultimately the fire station needs, and I think, frankly, would be really well served by that. Like I said before, I'm really a proponent of making sure that response times are fast. And I think a better way to do that is to have a fire station located a little bit closer to where people live, specifically kind of for the town, the people that they're serving. So I think in many respects, I'm really excited about the possibility here. I do think that there's going to be several instances where folks from the town can really chime in, can talk about the things that they want to see. And I think it's the first step of a really great, frankly, road to the future.
Great, thanks so much. Ethan?
Yeah, I worked extremely hard to get these questions on the ballot. I think it's important to note that the planning phase for the infrastructure design, as Noah mentioned, is $1.5 million, and $500,000 is of grant revenue if we accept the grant. We wanted to reach out to the town and see what the voters had to say. And at this point, my support lies in the results of the vote. I think that's important to hear from our constituents. Something to be noted was the proposed funding mechanism for the $1.5 million planning phase was over $400,000 from our water sewer reserve funds. So, you know, is it appropriate to spend $400,000 from our emergency reserve funds? That's not a question for me to answer, but to guide the town in developing that answer. And then, you know, we're talking about potentially, I think it was 88 million was the proposed. There was 3 phases, but you know, as inflation happens, those numbers are over a year old. You know, this could realistically be over $100 million build. And I'm happy to hear from the voters, and I will respect the will of the voters and execute that will to the full extent.
You're saying 88 million for the final project
For the proposed,
sort of on the table.
As it stands now, yeah.
Yeah, that's the, I forget the exact word for it, but the town has a document that they have, and it's the whole master plan. I think it's 89 Upper Main Street master plan, municipal complex master plan is what it is.
And you can both answer, but what happens to the old building What happens to the current town offices if this goes through, do we know?
I mean, I think the space would be leased, right? Like it depends
no,
on.
the conversation is to sell, and unfortunately, they're talking about building a $30 million building and selling the old one for $800,000. So
Okay.
there's a lot of things to
Not
be.
to derail, sorry to derail. Sorry, folks, to derail. It gets very interesting here. Article 5 proposes reducing the design review board from 7, the current 7 members, to 5. Do you support this? Why or why not? And I think we're starting with Ethan.
Okay. So this is a voter-backed petition, and again, it's important to respect the will of the voters. So the select board had moved diligently to put this on the ballot, and I will hold no position for or against this, as it's a voter-backed petition, and it's very important for us to listen to a voter, supported, collected, signature base that brought forth a question to put on the town ballot. And as the town wishes to vote in favor or against, it's our job as the select board to enact on those wishes.
Noah, do you have an opinion, yay or nay, on the design review board reduction?
Yeah, no, I think in many cases, I mean, I agree with Ethan. I think it's incredible to be in a situation where folks care so passionately about an issue that they're going door to door, they're collecting petitions, and they're really making an effort to have it on the ballot. I think that's sort of the best of what local democracy can be, and I think especially municipal democracy, being an engaged part of this process is amazing. For me personally, I think like Ethan, I think as a citizen-backed measure, I'm excited to see what the voters take from this. I think the thing that I've sort of been thinking about is I just want to make sure we can reach quorum on when meetings are happening. So for a 5-member board, that's 3 people. For a 7-member board, that's 4. Just making sure there's enough people to keep things kind of moving. And so I would kind of like Ethan said, I will defer to the voters on this one, but I do think it's important to make sure that we are able to kind of keep things moving and make sure that in the event that we do move forward with this initiative, just that we're able to sort of continue business going forward.
All right. So again, this is another sort of big question to answer in a minute and a half, that recently the town of Essex, through 2 different boards, voted to reject 2 major controversial projects. The Amazon warehouse, which was in front of the Planning Commission. It was really a zoning change that would allow, and I'm sorry, the Amazon warehouse was in front of the DRB, and the Women's Correctional Facility was in front of the Planning Commission, requiring a zoning change. And I think folks just want to hear, what's generally your stance on these projects and the town's growth plans for the coming years?
Totally.
And I think we are starting with Noah on this one. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for the question. I think this is a huge question and difficult to tackle in 90 seconds, but I'll see what I can do. I think in both cases, what we saw were the DRB and the Planning Commission making decisions based on what if these projects aligned with the town plan. So I think in regards to Amazon, I think it was a question of are we going to be able to see this sort of be implemented in a way that's not going to dramatically, basically that our roads can support. I think in many cases there were some real questions about, do we have the infrastructure for this to actually work, let alone sort of any decisions based on sort of Amazon specifically, but I think it was about, can our roads handle the trucks increase? Can we handle the traffic increase, especially at a time when we're trying to divert some traffic and really sort of make the roadways a little bit more equitable, a little bit better in that regard. And my understanding of the women's prison was it was more about a series of waivers that had to be applied. But I think in both cases, these were decisions that I think aligned with the town's plan. So I do support these decisions because it took us from a place of these decisions of possible sort of growth opportunities. But if they didn't align with the town plan, then ultimately I think it made sense to kind of to reject these proposals and really revisit better ways that Essex could grow. I do think there's opportunities for smart growth, and I'm looking forward to kind of a longer discussion about sort of ways that we can promote small businesses, that we can make sure that people feel comfortable and excited about sort of new development opportunities. But at least in these 2 cases, I would agree with the decisions of the respective boards.
Great, thank you so much. Ethan.
Yeah, I want to start by saying that I support our appointed members to the DRB and the Planning Commission. The state of Vermont gives very clear statutorial guidelines on how they operate and how there is to be no influence from the select board whatsoever on any of these topics. And I also put a note in here that after they have their authority to make those decisions in a process that follows. So there could be appeals through the environmental court or things like that. And it's important that the select board remain neutral on these topics until a final conclusion has been made. But as I stated before, I have full support in the members that I helped appoint to these boards, and I think it's very important that we continue to look and follow our local zoning and guiding documents like the town plan.
Great, thank you so much. Public safety. What is the state of public safety in Essex? What is the select board's role in keeping Essex residents safe? And we're going to start with you, Ethan.
I believe that public safety is very strong in Essex. The select board does a very good job to make sure that anything that's requested of us is fulfilled. We do have a shared services agreement with the city of Essex Junction, so we've done a little work to just make sure that there's clarity and fairness on how that process is split. The town is a large supporter of the police department, and the police department is a large supporter of the town with things like National Night Out. You'll always find them at the Five Corners, crossing kids in the morning, football games, community day. You name it. If there's a public outing, our police department's engaged, and we also have a very strong police community advisory board, which our police department works very closely with, and there's a public liaison who also works to make sure that connection is there between the residents and all the way up to our chief. So the town manager's done a very good job, as well as the police chief, in supporting the public police connection there and making sure it's an open door for conversations to be had.
Thank you so much. Noah?
Yeah, I mean, I think I largely agree. I think there is a strong sense of safety in the town, and I think in large part that's due to just some of the excellent services. I think I spoke with the police chief, was really excited to sort of hear about the interplay between the select board and the chief and sort of the police folks. And I do think in many ways, it's really exciting to sort of see how strong that connection is, and hopefully that will kind of continue. In terms of public safety, I think is not just policing, but I think it's also too about, like I said before, response times to various different emergencies that occur. And so I think making sure that that firefighters as well, the chief at the fire station also has access to what he needs. And I think it's also too about looking at really ways that we can strengthen a community, because I think a strong community is a safe community. So in many respects, I think that's looking at other ways that we can kind of continue to promote community safety, and looking into sort of programs like restorative justice, where there's a sense of belonging and a sense of accountability to a community, which really strengthens not only the person's connection there, but also to overall instances of kind of feeling safe, of feeling more secure kind of in a community, and that sort of has those ripple effects outward.
We are going to start with you, Noah. How will you use your role on the select board to help Essex meet the need for safe and affordable housing?
Sure, yeah. Well, I think as I sort of mentioned before, it was really exciting to sort of get my start in municipal government working on the Housing Commission. I've been really excited to chat with the Housing Chair, Anna Burlett, and really about the needs of Essex and sort of what we can do to chart a path forward. I think it's important to recognize, too, that a lot of the housing policies are sort of dictated by the state. So there's Act 250, and then more recently there's Act 181, and there's sort of ongoing debate about sort of Tier 1B, that sort of thing. But I do think there are things that we can do sort of in the town, and I think in part that's sort of taking a look at our zoning laws, making sure that they are both accessible to folks, and that's one of the initiatives that I put forward on the Housing Commission, is about more accessible zoning guides so that folks know what is and is not available, and because I think in many cases these documents are dense, and I think it can be difficult to track, so I think having an accessible guide, sort of a plain language guide, is really ideal. Another thing, I think, when we're looking at sort of the future of housing, there are a lot of different ways that we can sort of see housing develops. And I think one of the conversations we've had a lot is about how do we work with ADUs, so accessible dwelling units, to make sure that in the event that there is somebody who has a mother-in-law who wants to sort of live near them, how do we create the conditions that that can happen? How do we make sure that somebody feels comfortable in a community and that we have the implementation of sort of housing policies that guarantee that that people can age gracefully sort of in place? So I think those are a lot of the part of the conversation, and I think ultimately it's absolutely imperative that we have an informed public, people who know what's happening, and then also that we can do things sort of as a board to ensure that there can be smart, safe growth.
Great, thanks so much. Ethan?
Thank you. Yeah, so in my 4 years on the select board, at the very beginning, the housing commission was kind of lacking members, and most recently, the last couple of years, we've been able to gather some membership. They've worked hard on coming up with a mission plan. It's been challenging to keep people involved, but just recently there was a request from Anna about creating a housing fund. So the select board actually appropriated some money this year out of the fund balance to create a housing fund. There's still some requirements there, that there needs to be a plan for the fund, and basically they need, the housing commission needs to create a budget and come up with a goal list of how they plan to use the funds and things they'll be able to accomplish. And in short, it's been a long road to get here, but the housing commission is stable for the first time in my time on the board, and there is a path appearing in front of us, but it's our job as the select board to support those initiatives and make sure that we give them the tools that they need to be successful.
I do want to thank Ethan for his support in this fun process.
Yeah. Time has flown, and we are coming to an end.
Okay.
We are almost over. So
right.
I'm going to just wrap up here. Your closing comments are, what do you see as the most important issue facing the community of Essex? So let's go right to, why are you running? What problem is out there that you're trying to solve, and how do you want to do it? And help me out. We're going to start with Ethan here.
So we're skipping.
Going right down to the challenges
11.
question. Yeah.
Okay. I'll try to be quick then. I feel that the cost of living is the heaviest load for everybody in Vermont these days, not just our community, but I focus on Essex specifically. So I feel that it's important to keep that in mind as we're making decisions about the future, and understanding that we're spending others' tax dollars, and realizing that we need to keep our essential services and maintain a level of prosperity for our community to thrive, but also understanding that our wish list may have to shrink in order to keep the residents comfortable in a state of growth. I think it's important to look at our wants and our needs and make sure that we're really focused on our needs. So it's difficult. I don't think there's an easy answer to that question, but there will always be a new challenge that will arise, and it's just important to go into everything with an open mind and a clear viewpoint of working together to find a solution, because there will always be another problem and there will always be adversity, and we need to make sure that we can work through it together.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Ethan. Noah?
Yeah, I mean, I think in many cases, I'll echo what Ethan said. I think there's several challenges that we're facing. I think first and foremost, affordability definitely is a challenge. I think also I want to make sure that as we kind of go forward and as voters go to the polls, I want you to really take a look at sort of affordability, about transparency in municipal government, and a sense of community. I think if elected to this position, I'm excited to bring even more transparency. I know the board has done a good job thus far, but I think making sure that folks in town know what's going on, they feel comfortable talking about sort of what's happening on the board, what decisions are being made and why. I'm excited to talk a little bit more about affordability and specifically about planning for the future. I think it's really critical that we have some conversations, and like Ethan said, I think there are going to be tough conversations about the best way forward, but I do think there is a smart way forward that can prioritize making sure that we have a good quality of life while still meeting the needs of the future. And finally, a sense of community. One of the things that I've really loved about Essex, as I mentioned at the top of the program here, is the sense of community, the sense that people have your back. And so my hope is that to continue that, and I think part of that is going to be seen in the various different activities that we can do, whether that's the soup night the night before the election, whether that's some of the town showcases, and whether that's just events that we can go to as a whole. I think there's a real opportunity to continue that community. And I think that extends in a couple of different ways. We can take a look at some of the trails that the Parks and Recs folks have done a great job of maintaining, continue to expand those access, and ultimately make sure that all access is a little bit more affordable, more accessible, that sort of thing. So ultimately, thank you for the time. And if you want to look more, please view noahforessex.com to see a little bit more about my platform. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you both. Thank you both for being here. Thank you both for speaking to the voters. Thank you both for running, because that's what helps keep our local democracy strong, is this kind of involvement, and I really appreciate that. Thank you for tuning in to Town Meeting TV's ongoing coverage of local elections. You can also tune in here on the March 3rd election night for our election results show. If you have not already voted, because you can vote early, you can vote on March 3rd, anytime between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. You can contact your local clerk to find out other ways of obtaining your ballot. Thank you all and good night.
Thank you.